Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am Mala and today we'll be talking about the books I read in February. I'm dressed up a bit hearty because late Valentine's. I have upgraded or downgraded depending on how shit this quality is to this mic so you can actually see my ears for the first time ever. I read 8 books in February. February is a short month, there's only 28 days, which I conveniently forgot until the 24th, and then I was just like, oh no, I only read 7 books. So yes, and also Lost Ark came out, so I've been playing Lost Ark, and also I have picked up crochet. And there was a period of time this month I was very scared of the dark because of a movie I watched. So I didn't do the usual, oh I can't sleep, let's read at night thing, because I slept the lights on for a week. So let's get started. First book I read this month is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I've never watched the movie, so this is my first foray into this. It is a thriller. On Nick's 5th wedding anniversary, he comes home and finds his wife Amy missing. A gone girl. So a backstory about Nick and Amy: they met in New York City, Manhattan. And then both of them lost their jobs, so Nick decides to move back home in Missouri to take care of his parents. Big city, go to small town. Relatable. So yeah, that's all I can say about this without spoiling anything. It's a very fun read. It's a very entertaining read. So the writing style is very easily digestible. You just pick up and read. It's very easy to read. There are some pop culture references to the 2010s, okay? Not a big fan of pop culture references, but what I really like about this book is each character has a distinct voice. Sometimes you read books and like characters kind of sound all the same. In this you can tell they are distinct characters from their point of view. It's told in Nick's point of view in present time, and Amy's point of view in diary entries, and in the diary entries you really feel like it's a diary entry. I gave this a 4 or 5, starting off strong. Yeah, second book of the month. A fantasy book this time. This is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. This is set in like a fantasy old Slavic country. So you follow this girl Agnieszka. She lives in a peaceful valley. So a valley has several towns, and then every 10 years they kind of sacrifice, not really sacrifice, but give up a girl to the dragon, where the dragon will take the girl for 10 years. And then when she's released, she comes back different. She doesn't want to stay in the valley anymore. She wants to go out and explore and go to university. And yes, so you follow Agnieszka, and during one of these ceremonies where they're supposed to like give up a girl, she gets picked instead of her friend Kasia, who since birth they really thought that she'll get picked, so she has been training to get picked, but no, they picked Agnieszka instead. And then that's as much as the blurb gives you, like legit. The blurb is so short, it's very vague. It sold me, but I did not like it. I read up to like 100 pages and I was like, is this YA? And then I searched it up on Goodreads and it's kind of labeled as YA, but it's not really, because there's a sex scene apparently. This is technically adult or new adult, but Agnieszka is 17 in this, so technically also young adult. I really did not like Agnieszka. This is like mild spoilers for this book, so if you want to read this book, just skip ahead, but let me rant for a bit. I really did not like this book because Agnieszka, I can't say she's a Mary Sue, because like Mary Sues are also well liked by in-universe characters. But she is so OP. They'll say like, oh, nobody has done this except like Baba Yaga, which is a witch in Slavic folklore. And then they're like, oh, nobody has done this since Yaga. But obviously Agnieszka does. And then the magic system in this is very loose also. So most of them they say spells, which is some made up language, and it gets stronger, but Agnieszka has some different type of magic. It's a very chosen one story, which I don't like, because she feels so special. I don't like chosen ones. And the romance in this, firstly, this is spoiler territory. The dragon is obviously, it's not a dragon. I was so disappointed. I was hoping the dragon was actually a dragon, but no, he's just a wizard with a codename dragon. And if they fall in love, like this 17-year-old girl and this multi-hundred-year-old wizard. Not a fan. And I really feel like it's tacked on because they have no chemistry whatsoever. The dragon was so abusive to her at the start. I will never fall in love or like somebody like that. I won't even be their friend. Like, why, Agnieszka? Why? Why do you fall in love with him? Why? I don't understand. And the characters are not really developed. If you say they get stronger in a sense, it's development, I guess, because Agnieszka just gets like super strong. But character-wise, she seems the same. She doesn't change much in personality. I want to like it because it's like Polish, and my husband's Polish, so I was like, yeah, fairy tale, yeah, it's Polish. But there's just so many things I don't like about this book. I gave this book a 1.5 or a 2 out of 5 because I can't give it a 1 because at least it's a book, it's written. You know, the writing style is simple. It's okay. It's just I have so much problems with the content itself. I don't like the dragon. I don't like Agnieszka. That's the only character I liked was the villain, which is it's still okay. So 1.5 or a 2 out of 5. So the next book I've read is Pachinko. Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This is a historical saga-esque. I've never read any saga, so this just follows one family and multiple generations of that family. Can you see? I tried to annotate, but I don't know what I'm doing. So it starts off in the 1900s in Korea, and it ends in like the 1980s in Osaka, Japan. So it starts off with Sunja. Well, it starts off before that with Sunja's father and grandfather, but they're very vague. But the main story starts with Sunja, who is a daughter of some innkeepers, right? So Sunja falls in love with a wealthy stranger. So this stranger comes to the village and stays at the market, but he's like, comes and goes. He's a mysterious figure. And then the mysterious figure saves her from a bunch of Japanese schoolboys, I think, that were bullying her, and like she can't understand Japanese because she is Korean. Sunja falls in love with this stranger and she ends up pregnant. And then when she told this stranger this, and it was like, oh, I am married back in Osaka. And then she was like, oh no, heartbroken. She gives up on him, obviously, but he's like, why? But yes. And then at the same time, this Christian minister comes down. He's originally from Pyongyang, you know, what's currently in North Korea. He's very frail. He is en route to Osaka to take a new job. He stays at Sunja's mother's inn. And then she heard about this news and he was like, oh, maybe I can just take her as a wife because it would be better for Sunja because then she will be a single mother. And take Sunja and go to Osaka, Japan to live. And Sunja's mom was like, yeah, it would be better for her. So that's how our whole story starts. It starts with Sunja and her family, this child, Ishak the minister, Ishak's brother and sister-in-law. See their point of view of living in Osaka as Koreans, as like, you know, third-rate citizens, not being treated very well because they're like, go back to your country and all. It explores a lot of themes of family, not fitting in, growing up treated as a minority. It tries to do too much really in the last third. In the last third of the book, it goes to current events. Current as in like 1950, like after World War II. Like World War II is also explored a bit in it, but they don't explicitly mention, oh, this is World War II. They just give you the dates and then you kind of piece it yourself. So I think this whole book is a lot of just telling you information and you figure out how you feel about it. Because it's not very emotional. The writing style is not very dry, but it's just a bit textbooky. It doesn't make me feel very emotional just by the writing. The events that happen are a bit upsetting, but they didn't make me cry or anything because it's just told like news, you know? The book is mostly okay, it's just the last third. I really didn't like the last third. It felt like somebody else written it. somebody else wrote it, because usually it's within the family and Isaac's brother, but in the last third it explores the grandson's girlfriend and then the grandson's girlfriend daughter. It's just very unrelated people that was like not set up, no setup at all. I don't really care for these characters, and they try to cram every like social issue of that time into the book, so it just feels very disjointed. I mean, suddenly you have like being gay, and then I don't know, some orgies in the park, and I don't know. I was just very confused at the last third. It's just a slog. In the acknowledgements, Min Jin Lee did mention she has done interviews, so I think she's just trying to like take the anecdotes and put it in these characters. That's what I feel. And also, like, some characters have really unnecessary backstory. This guy who works in the mansion that Sunja goes because she's trying to find someone, and then the housekeeper or like the butler comes out and talks to her, and then the butler has a backstory of his own, even though like we never see him again. And he is Korean, so he has this kind of tragic backstory of why he's in Osaka, but like you never see him again. So I'm just very confused. Why? So it's not a very emotional read, so I was a bit disappointed because it was sold to me as like, it was like, oh, this is very like Parasite. They were like, it's very sad. And I did not shed a tear because I am more affected by emotional writing, which this does not have. I gave it a 3 out of 5. Could be better. I wanted it to be better, but it was okay. So after Pachinko, I read The Woman in the Window by A.J. Flynn. So this is also a thriller. So this is about Anna Fox, our main character. She has agoraphobia, so she doesn't leave her house, and so she spends the time drinking a lot of wine, being in online chat rooms because she's a child psychiatrist or something, so she dishes out advice on those chat rooms. And she also spies on her neighbors with a telescope and camera and all, because I don't know. So the story really starts off when she got new neighbors, the Russells. They move in and there is a, wife, husband, teenage son. And then while Anna was like spying on them, she saw something that she shouldn't see, and then decides to figure out the truth behind it, which never worked out well, really. It's an entertaining read. It's a thriller. I enjoyed it, but like it's like watching a movie. I think it has been made into a movie as well. There are things I don't like, but it's just the excessive drinking. Apparently it's becoming a very popular thing in thriller novels to have like the main character drink a lot, because then it's easier to make it seem like they're unreliable. But this is the first of its kind I've read, even though there are many. I know there are many. There are a lot of like old movie references, like classic movie references in this, which I didn't really get because I don't watch old movies. So maybe if you watch old movies, you'll like it. But it ties in with the plot somehow. But I've heard A.J. Flynn is a very controversial author. Apparently he lied a lot about a lot of his like real life stuff and what he has done. So I think he's been cancelled or something. But I got this in a second-hand bookstore, so what did I give this? 3.5. Actually, I just give it 3. 3 is an okay read, really. Okay, next book. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. And another attempt of me trying to be like smart. Annotations, but I don't remember what they are. Can't really spoil Frankenstein right now, right? Because it's such an old and known story. You follow Victor Frankenstein. So he is the scientist. He was just like, oh, I want to make a sentient being. He didn't stop to think why he should. It's like just because he could. Because after he made it, came to life, he was just so scared and horrified. He was just like, what have I done? And then he runs off to sleep in a different part of the house or something. And then when he comes back, the monster's gone. and it's very weird because he just goes about his normal day-to-day without thinking about the monster at all or where it has gone until he encounters it again. Which is, I don't know, it's just very, I don't know, it's interesting to me. It explores a lot of humanity. Be like, oh, what have I done? And then what the monster has gone through. So it's set up very interestingly. It's first told through the perspective of the ship captain who saves Victor Frankenstein, and then Frankenstein tells his story, and then there's a part where the monster recounts his story, so it shifts into the monster's perspective, and then it goes back out and goes back out again. It's just very interesting. I find it very enjoyable. It's a very, very, very slow read, and also because it was published in 1820, so the language is very flowery, so it took me quite a while to read, but I really enjoyed this. Like, I felt so bad for the monster, because he was just abandoned when he was made. And then every turn he's just rejected because he looks like a monster. I'm just like, aww. It feels like a very adventure book, because Victor Frankenstein goes to so many countries. He goes to Switzerland, he goes to Paris, he goes to London, he goes to Scotland, and then he goes to Ireland. It's very nice to read. It's very descriptive writing, which I really like. 4.5. This is I think it's the first book I read after that horror movie that made me so scared of the dark. Okay, I need a simple read, so I picked up Redwall by Brian Jacques. I think that's his name? Jacques, not Jacques, right? Jacques. It is a fantasy book, children's book, first of the Redwall series. And in Redwall, you follow your main characters. They are mice. You follow Matthias. Matthias. He's a young novice monk at Redwall Abbey, but he wants to be like a warrior fighter, like Martin the Warrior, because they have this tapestry in the abbey, and then they like sew parts of the history on it, and Martin is on it, and he's like, oh, I want to be like Martin. But then the abbot is like, oh, we don't have fighting it like that anymore. It's very peaceful since. So he's just like, okay. But not for long. Clooney is coming. Clooney is coming. Clooney, he is a one-eyed evil rat. They have to emphasize he's very evil. He betrays his own comrades. He is evil. Clooney comes, he attacks Redwall Abbey because they need a warrior now. Matthias decides to go on a quest to find Martin's sword hidden somewhere in the abbey. There's a little map, and it doesn't cover much because you gotta remember they are mice, they are animals. So all you see is like the meadow and the church and the abbey. That's it. Because they don't cover a lot of land. So while this is going on, while Matthias is on his quest, the inhabitants of the abbey are just preparing to fight. So most of the time when he's off doing his own thing, there's the separate plot, which is just the abbey under siege, and Matthias is not there. Apparently Brian Jacques read it for his kids, like to read to them at bedtime. So then some of the animals have accent. The moles have this very weird Scottish accent. It's a bit hard to read. You have to read it out loud to really understand. And the sparrows have a different way of speaking as well, which it's alright, I guess. About the story itself, it's a generic story really, but they always emphasize that Clooney is evil, like he is very evil. Apparently it's a critique of Redwall, the whole series. Some animals are just like inherently bad, and then the others are inherently good, and rats are just bad, which is it's a kid's story, so I can't really say much about it. Yeah, the character of Matthias is very weird, I feel, because mid-book there's suddenly a switch. His character suddenly switches. It's a bit contradictory at points, but I won't talk about it because it's a spoiler. But there was a point where I was very turned off at what Matthias was doing, and I was just like, what the is going on? Brian Jacques writes food descriptions very well, and the siege is described very well also. I would say there's a bit of gore. Clooney is very, very evil. I found a page where it's very early on, it's chapter 4. That's Clooney and the horse. They're on the horse carriage, and then the horse stopped because of exhaustion. So he asked, well not asked, kind of demanded this other rat to bite the horse so that it'll keep going. Skullface bit the horse. He rolled off the horse, and then the cartwheels rolled over him. He lay in a red mist of death, the life ebbing from his broken body. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was the sneering visage of Clooney the Scourge, roaring from the jolting backboard. Tell the devil Clooney sent you, Skullface. Yeah, that was the second mention of Clooney in the book, and he was like, yeah, this is how evil this guy is. It's a fun read, but I will not continue a series. I think there's 11 books. And this first book itself is really like 400 pages. So I'd rather read something else. I give this a 3.5 out of 5. It's Terry Pratchett's Mort. Look at this cover. I wanted to get Guards, but they only had Mort. Well, they had several others, but Mort's the one I heard of. So this is my first book into Discworld universe. So this is the 4th book of Discworld and first in the Death series. For some reason, I thought Mort was the name of Death, but it's not. So in this, we follow Death. Well, we follow Mort, really. We should talk about Mort more than Death. So Mort is he's a farmer's son, but he is not very good at farming. He really likes eating. He likes to search for the search for information. And then his dad was just like, okay, maybe we should bring you to the apprentice fair, because the dad is hoping to pawn off Mort to somebody else, because Mort is not really doing much for the farm. Death comes along and takes Mort as an apprentice, and then Mort joins Death on his horse to read people's souls. That's the blurb, that's the main summary, main plot. So it's a very fun read. Obviously, it's Terry Pratchett. It's the first Terry Pratchett book I read. We'll read it more because the jokes are up my alley. It's so absurd at times, but it made me laugh out loud multiple times, which, you know, it's a good fun read. I have no problems with this book, really. I really like it. Don't have much to say, really. Yeah, at some point I'll just continue on reading the Death series. There's like 31 books, and I also have the first of the Rincewind series, which is the first ever Discworld book. But I heard a lot of people say it's not a good starting point, so I'll probably finish Death and then go back to that. But Rincewind appears in this, and I don't really like what I see of Rincewind. I wish I can get the whole series in this, but $12.99. Yes, I gave this a 4.5 out of 5, but it's a very near 5. I think this is the best book I read this month. It's very short, too. Very fun read. Okay, technically last book. There's one more extra book, but last book I read this month is The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. Another Ishiguro work to end the month, because last month I also ended off with When We Were Orphans. So this one is actually a fantasy. This is his only fantasy. This is about Axel and Beatrice. They're a couple, an elderly couple. They are an elderly Briton couple, important because this is set post-Arthurian. So they are like the Britons and the Saxons. They live in a village. There's this weird mist that makes people forget memories, their long-term memories. And then they suddenly remember they have a son in another village and decide to go look for the son. Thus starts their journey. This book has been recommended for a lot of like Reddit threads for books like Dark Souls. Because this is kind of like Dark Souls. The way it's written is very, you know, Dark Souls dialogue. I'm not very familiar with like the Britons and Saxons because I'm more familiar with like Anglo-Saxons, which is later on. But yes, so it's just two different factions, they're countries, and they were at war with each other, and it's like post-war really. So if you're more familiar with like Arthurian legend, you enjoy this more than I did. I still enjoyed it. It's okay read. It is Ishiguro's work, so the writing is pretty good. Some may say it's a bit too formal because the way they speak to each other is a bit formal, but I'm like, maybe that's a quirk. I kind of like it. Each character kind of has their own voice also, which I appreciate. It's very literary. He doesn't spell what's going on for you. And it's a slow-paced adventure. It gave me the same feeling as I did when I finished When We Were Orphans. It's the very conflicting feeling of, do I like this or not? The story is okay. I gave this a 3.5. I don't know what to say about this. I like can I say I like the dialogue? Because like Axel, or whenever he talks to Beatrice, he'll call her princess. Like every line they'll be like blah 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 princess, and I'm like, okay, maybe there's a reason why he's doing that. Maybe she was actually a princess and he forgot or something, but no, it's a pet name, and I was like, I don't like pet names. But yeah, it's a very reflective book. It makes you think about the importance of memory, really, which is a common theme in When We Were Orphans. I'm seeing a similar theme in his work. I don't know, it's just very conflicting. The ending feels a bit ambiguous. That's what it is. Yes, Ishiguro's work might be too smart for me. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just too dumb to like fully appreciate him. But I gave this a 3.5 anyway. Okay, so technically that was the last book I read this month, but in the middle of the month I DNF'd the book. I really didn't want to DNF it, but this was like right after that horror movie, and I was not really cut out for heavy reads. So I don't know why I started reading this. This is The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. It's so short, I was like, maybe I can read this and finish it. But it's an anthology of basically fairy tale retellings. It's sold as like feminist or something, but it explores a lot about sexuality, and I'll admit I'm quite conservative because of my upbringing. So reading this, I was also not in the right frame of mind to read this, so I DNF'd it at 50 or 60. There's only like 100 pages. The first story takes up like 40 pages. It's so long. And then there are some stories that are like 2-3 pages. So it's very disproportionate. I'm not very into that. Maybe at some point later on in the future, I'll pick this up and try to read it again. But at this point, I'm just too much of a prude to read this. Because I just wanted to give Angela Carter another try because I had The Magic Toy Shop. And then there are 2 retellings of Beauty and the Beast in there. And it's set, and it's like one after the other. Technically they're kind of different, but why also? I can't really say much about it because I'm pretty sure people are like, oh, exquisite writing. But it was right after a horror movie that traumatized me, so a horror movie. Never watching a fucking horror movie again. The sun is setting, so I have the lights on again. But the sun is setting, the video's ending. That's all I read this month. It's still quite a respectable amount of books, right? Yeah. Next month meaning this month, I think I'm just gonna read fantasy. I have a lot of fantasy books to start. I have Malice by John Gwynne. I have the first book of the Malazan series. A lot of these I found in secondhand bookstores, this one especially. Malazan, Gardens of the Moon. Heard good things, but also intimidating. Malice, the debut novel of John Gwynne. I also have Shadow of the Gods, which is another John Gwynne book, but I think I will finish Malice first. I also have Jonathan Strange here. I found this in a used bookstore too, the charity shop. I'm just like, oh, another Susanna Clarke book. So I think I'll just read fantasy or like really old historical fiction. My husband came back while I was filming and he gave me this. So I'm just like, oh. So I think this is historical fiction. So yes, I'll read this too probably. And so I got the whole box set of House Moving Castle now to replace the very ugly cover I have. But yes, that is all for this video. So tell me what you think about this video. Tell me what you think about these books. Tell me what you think about the books I'm gonna read. Or recommend me books. Or discuss anything. Like, subscribe, comment, share. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!